Thank you so much. It's lovely to be here in Goa, and I'm looking forward to a host of insights being shared by our guests. There's no fire in this fireside chat, but there is fire on our screens. In fact, when I think about some of the most exciting stories that I've covered over the past 21 years, India's digital growth story has captured my attention like no other. I'm sure there are headline numbers: 650 million smartphone subscribers, over 950 million internet subscribers. Sure, all the big headline numbers are there. But the most interesting aspect of India's digital economy for me has been the retailization of experience. In everything that we consume, whether it's food, whether it's deliveries, whether it's travel, whether it's entertainment, whether it's banking and finance, insurance, we truly have an app for everything. But to understand this growth and understand it from the context of measurement, that's a more nuanced conversation. Why? Because if you cannot measure something, you can't understand it. And if you can't understand it, you can't control it. And if you can't control it, you can't improve it. So we have with us two big names in this world who will take us through this journey, make us understand various points which come up when it comes to growth, measurement, success, AI, personalization, a whole lot of topics that we will cover in the 30 minutes that has been assigned to us. So let's get started on this journey of the digital ecosystem that India presents. We have with us Siddhartha Roy, a very exciting growth story which I have covered since the beginning of my career, Hungama, and of course Reshef providing the perspective on measurement. So Siddhartha, let's start with you on understanding where things are, the macro perspective. Considering India's digital economy is projected to contribute nearly 20% of national income by 2030, the most significant opportunities that you're seeing fueled by digital growth, and more importantly, the areas to prioritize for businesses, what would you say?
Thank you, AppsFlyer, for having me here, and I think it's a great audience. So GS, the way we break this is that let's shift about 4 years back. Okay. So what were the core fundamental change that happened? So we had device, and then obviously we got the larger opportunity of Jio and Airtel bringing out and really breaking out the ecosystem in terms of data. And then one significant change happened in our life, which was actually the government stacks, which are the stacks for single sign-on, which is Aadhaar. And then the government built out the UPI layer, which is where the larger democratization of payments happened. And that fundamentally changed the entire outlook of how entertainment was being consumed. Because the core entertainment layer earlier was we were reaching out to retail and consumers didn't have ways and forms to pay. The telecom ecosystem at one time gave us an ability to charge the user, but then as everything became free in the core bundled era, you then try to figure out how to get users to pay for content. And that to me was one of the most significant changes that happened with the entire payment stack coming about. And what it has resulted in, that we are now seeing the entire entertainment OTT part of this ecosystem. I mean, if you were to look at music currently in 24 would be ending at roughly about 20 million, 22 million paid retail subs. This would be 50 million in 2 years, 100 million in 5. If you look at video, we're talking roughly about, I'm keeping the bundled base out of it, if you talk about roughly about 175 to about 200 million paying retail users on video, we're talking this to be roughly about 600 million.
100 million, yeah. Wow.
So, and all of us, and there are a lot of colleagues here, we've all seen over the last 18 months how we've created accretive ARPU increases on all our OTT businesses. And that has all resulted in this layer. So there is massive amount of consumption happening. The opportunity in regional is real. Exactly what's happened to television is what we're going to see in OTT. I expect another 100 plus OTTs to come about, because you could technically take Western UP and build out a business with just Western UP in mind. You could be taking just parts of India and building out a model.
And we're seeing that in the originals that you guys devised, right? A lot of regionalization, a lot of movies coming from
So,
Tamil,
I mean,
Telugu.
it's a classic case. We went into crime and drama. We did all of it. We realized crime and drama was the sweet spot. So that's the only thing that we've been hitting hard for the last 2 years. And now that entire model is starting to create a playbook for us. So it's a classic case of what you take and how you build out the layer. The other big thing is that OTT is actually not only about entertainment. Today, the devotional space, you're seeing what's happening in Mahakumbh. Okay, we've all heard about the success of AstroTalk. We're aware of what kind of an ecosystem that brand has gone out and built. Okay, all of this creates for interesting. There was a person who came and met me last week, and he said, "I want to do a devotional tourism ecosystem." Because apparently, I'm told that that's a $5 billion industry. And there is an opportunity to create content and entertainment and a paid ecosystem in just the devotional tourism aspect of the business. Yeah.
Give the people what they want, and you will have an organic engagement between the brand and the customer. That's
Absolutely.
the message coming out. All right. Taking this point forward with Chef, some of the growth drivers that has been mentioned by Sid, where we look at various aspects, regionalization, giving the customer what they want in terms of new avenues. How does this translate into trends for data measurement and data strategy? And what should brands do to refine their focus to truly capture the digital growth story that India is presenting?
I think that you mentioned it before. What you measure is what you improve, and the data points that you measure are really important because you need to put focus on exactly, specifically might be the events or the data that is being collected from regarding the engagement of the users. Otherwise, you might miss some important data points that might and can and should contribute to the decision-making process that you make down the road. So I would say this is really important to figure out what should be measured in order to pinpoint the important things and the insights that you should get. And I know that we'll get to it further down the conversation, but I think that AI, and this is the first time that we touch it during this conversation, but we'll talk about it more, is really important over here because first of all, it can direct you towards what needs to be measured. And second, it will help you aggregate all the data that you get and be able to get you to the insights faster and more accurately.
Absolutely. As they say, well, data is the new oil, but refining it makes money for you. So
What's your North Star?
absolutely. That's the North Star is, well, in many cases, it's money, right? While we have grander objectives, we'll say, at the end of the day, what's the ROI? We'll bring up the ROI conversation, but looking at the broad structure, right? We are in an omni-channel world. Let's look at Hungama, considering the vast entertainment ecosystem that you cater to. You have apps, you have the OTT ecosystem, you have websites, you have many channels. Now the question is, how are you leveraging this omni-channel presence in an environment? We are in an economically uncertain environment where, from that ROI perspective, it's important to retain customers and acquire customers. And from the lens of cost, right? Acquisition is more expensive than retention. The question is, how does Hungama do it well in terms of both acquisition and retention in an omni-channel reality?
So I'll break this actually to two parts. Every piece of a platform destination, because we run a set of ad-funded stacks and we run a set of paid stacks as well. And when I saw Sanjay's data, Sanjay, the data that you threw up specifically with regards to US consumption for Indian apps, it's bang on. Okay, because for us also, if I look at the AVOD layers of our containers, because we are Bollywood centric, we have over 55% of our consumption coming out of the North American market. Okay, so there it's playing the plot completely. But the way we would look at it would be that, see, we've also looked at various metrics as we've gone about organically building our business. But what we realized through this medium was that, look, at the end of the day, there's to be only one core KPI. Okay, that core KPI could be linked in our space. It could be linked to me saying, I want more subscriptions, I want more consumption, in turn leading to what Reshef was saying, a larger LTV. Okay, and what we found was that at the end of the day, it is getting the subscription at the right price. The consumption and LTV has LTV is a byproduct of the business by default. The consumption layer is built on the amount of creative content or the number of content pieces, the right content pieces, and that has a creative lens to the entire model. So you try and work towards building out a destination where habit formation is happening. But the core value that you assign to what you want to drive as objective is at what price you, the way I put it is, how can you get the right subscriber at a specific
right
price? And that to me is always an inverted U. The question between that, are you chasing valuation where you'll burn to grow, or will you be chasing value which you will optimize to effectively grow your business? So I think that is the moot point here, and all the rest of the KPIs then become a sub-layer of that entire engagement.
So you need a more granular perspective when talking about customer lifetime value, because at the end of the day, it's a very competitive game. You also have to come up with new ways to predict what am I going to do with this customer in terms of delivering value to them, and how does the customer then respond?
I mean, see the entire democratization of payments. For us to get record on UPI, that's changed the model completely. Today, you could, if you can create habit and you have a 12, 14 month life cycle of the customer, your CAC changes completely in the business. You have an ability to go out and really put the dollars behind it. So let me give you an analogy. This is an analogy out of the US. The product in India, let's say, is roughly a sub $10 product in India on an annualized basis. This product becomes a $100 product in the US. Okay, I end up running a 23% CAC on it. Okay, the effective LTV, GS, jumps by 2+ years.
Really?
Yeah. So if you have the ability to provide the user the right content, and if you're able to create habit, and to me, as Hungama, that's the big thing that we're trying to drive. I mean, how can we get a lot more consistent with content?
The right content in the right context gets you the right result. All right, Reshef, let me bring you in, because this channel universe, with how brands can reach out to their customers, is ever expanding. And when I look at customer journeys, they are becoming more and more complex, where earlier it would be a 10, 20 step process, that each step itself has 4 or 5 steps within it. Now, considering the fragmented journeys and the challenges that come with it, demanding measurement, what are the best practices that brands can employ, and in stitching together these multiple channels, whether it's online and offline, and build a truly connected and effective marketing funnel? What would you say to that?
Oh, this is a really hard subject that is unfortunately hard to summarize in
it's like an Attenborough nature documentary. You have to give it in you have to present the entire story in 30 seconds.
Yeah, so it depends. I think that over here, each kind of vertical or industry is going to be different. Because
let's take finance, for example. As Sanjay said, it's one of the most popular sites. And when you look at in India, right, there was a push towards branchless banking, especially post the pandemic, where the app is your bank. You do everything on the app. You do not need to, visit the bank. Now, there are many channels that the bank is also trying to reach out. It's still trying to play that omni-channel play in a more effective way. What would you have suggested to, say, a finance organization on having an effective marketing funnel across online and offline?
Okay, so this is a good point, the finance market, because I think that as opposed to the way it used to be, that each and every bank had its own app, which meant that it was directed towards its current customer base, which was maybe easier to approach because they had the audience, they needed to approach them, but it didn't really make sense to convince other users who are not the bank customers to install this application. And with all the applications that deal with the branchless banking or money transfer, it made it more interesting because it allowed these financial institutes to try to approach users who are not their customers to start using the application. And over here, I guess that, it would make sense to kind of have a dissection of the customers, the bank customers, which you want them, convince them to use other apps, and by that, creating kind of a network. Because if we take, for example, money transfer applications, you need to have a mass. It's the network effect over here. So once you get like a circle of users, you need to convince them to, and over here it would make sense to use kind of incentives and user invites to bring other users. Like, for example, if I transfer money to you, you have a really strong incentive to install the application in order to get the money. So this is kind of an approach that...
But what about then sectors where, so when I look at banking, when I look at healthcare, there is going to be more organic engagement because the customer is interested in engaging with you because it's a real-time impact. But for sectors where where consumption can be passive, then what do you say? So when you're shopping, just it's a moment shopping where you don't know what you want to buy, you're just looking out for a new dress or something?
Well, in that case, first of all, I think that you will need to choose wisely your media partners in order for them to be able to bring you high-value customers. And unfortunately, again, there is no easy answer over here. But I think that collaboration is going to be really important over here because you need to make sure that you need to work with partners who have some knowledge of the user. And they know, for example, let's take fashion, e-commerce. You need the users who are interested in that and they want to buy it and work with them in order to bring new user towards you. So,
and of course, to make sense of what's happening, we always have AppsFlyer to support the brand.
Of course, this is our job to help you identify
all right,
and measure.
All right, let's take the points that Reshef has mentioned and take it forward, because then it comes about personalization. Right? At the end of the day, every customer truly needs to feel like a king or a queen in terms of how the brand is interacting with them. And considering AI is enabling a lot of those personalization experiences at scale, I want to get your thoughts, Siddhartha, as to how Hungama is looking at AI and personalization, because you mentioned about the regionalization push, right? So a customer, whether they're in UP, whether they are in Tamil Nadu, Kerala, or the Northeast, or Mumbai for that matter, how do they get the same level of experience across the board? What's your secret sauce there?
So actually in the very beginning, we went to specialists in the business. So there are global specialists who focus on video-based recommendation engines. So that became a basic plot. So you brought in metadata. They were fairly personalized in that sense. Over a 30-day period, the home screen of yours and mine would technically be 90% different in that sense. Okay, and in music it was a lot different, because there really the recommendation engine played a very important part because of playlisting and the fact that you're dealing with roughly about 35 million pieces of content. But in video, it tends to be a lot more finite, a lot more smaller. We've got LLM layers now coming in. Okay, so we've got AI where we are working towards bringing in intelligence, historic data. Bollywood Hungama has 60 years of Bollywood content meta in its place. So we are working with the likes of Microsoft and others to see how the LLM journeys can be created and how can we present the same content or create contextuality of content in the right way from a personalization perspective.
All right.
But I think it's very early in the journey. The way we look at AI is actually just in two very simple lines. We say that AI is going to help us create efficiency, and we're hoping to create productivity in consumer consumption on the back of certain disruptions and personalizations that will happen.
Absolutely.
How that plays out, GS is still some time away.
We have scratched the surface, but there are other aspects as well, because when we look at data privacy, we are in a first-party data world. So
with Bollywood Hungama for the last 18 months with Microsoft, we've been working with a very massive 60-year-old data stack. Trust me, we're still struggling to figure out what could be the use case. And you were so right. For the first 6 months, we didn't give them access to any of our data because of privacy. We ourselves were trying to figure out. So they first proved to us that they'd built out an enterprise stack, which was completely only to us to be able to ingest and then be able to start working through the LLM layer. But it's very, very early days.
All right. Reshef, a quick comment from you on, considering we are moving into a first-party data world where brands are going to need to be innovative into how they are engaging and making the customer share data with them. So how should brands rethink first-party data collection and usage to deliver those relevant experiences across channels without, falling short on compliance and user trust? A quick view from you. I realize that we have less than 5 minutes, so we'll make a rapid-fire round after this.
Well, this is a really important point to touch. And yesterday during the roundtables, the icebreakers, I was in the privacy table and we had an interesting discussion about it. And I think that in terms of privacy, which relates to first-party data, something that goes hand in hand with it is transparency, because the way that you treat the data and work with it for your marketing objectives, I think it's really important to be transparent about it. And this is something that makes the difference if we try to compare it to the way that it was, let's say, 10, 15 years ago. Back then, data was traded, was sold by the collectors of the data, and companies were paid money for that, which today sounds like it doesn't make sense. And by harnessing first-party data, you can work with another company which also has first-party data. And by merging and cross-cutting the data together, you get into insights which will help both you and the other company to get better users and to engage them in a better way. And what's important about it and the way that it's being done today, it's that it's being done transparently. And the analysis of the data is done in a privacy-preserving manner. Like, nobody gets the data, like you wouldn't get the data of the other company. Solutions like the DCP that we provide allow you to do it in a privacy-preserving manner, which is transparent to everybody. And I think that this makes sense both from the user's point of view and the industry longevity.
All right. From engaging users, let's see how it drives conversion and how measuring then comes into play. A quick point of view as we enter the last leg of this conversation. So a 30-second answer from you, Siddharth. In terms of, you're optimizing your business and revenue model continuously to drive up ROI. The question is, which monetization approach is working? There's subscriptions, ad models, in-app purchases. In driving conversions, which model is successful and how does omni-channel engagement factor into this?
So for us, it's actually subscriptions, and more subscriptions. We had a music freemium business. We chose to put it behind paid. Obviously, the reason was the fact that it had a large royalty burn on the large consumption that it drove. We've had partnerships with device companies where we've been default partners. Just being part of that ecosystem is in itself fairly scaled, very large, and very high on burn. So very clearly we see subscription. From an advertising perspective, the ad business continues to grow. Video is a very big form factor, so that's the big focus out there. But from an omni-channel perspective, the thing that we are seeking is how do we get a lot more direct media publishers, partners into the mix. And to me, that's going to be the big structure in how we manage. We're speaking to some of the folks at AppsFlyer as well. How do we manage fraud? Because that's something that really sits up as you start to scale. So every time when you're scaling, you're always second guessing the business. So how do we stop second guessing, and how do we increase the funnel and be able to target different sets of consumers? That to me is going to be an interesting.
That's a refreshing change, because in some sectors in entertainment, there's always been this battle of AVOD, then going SVOD, then going back to AVOD, then going back to SVOD. So it's refreshing to see a consistent approach that you mentioned, so that you have certain.
It's hard fought. Let me state that nothing was done because three of us sat in a room. We've gone through all those journeys and then taken the call. Yeah.
All right, Reshef, new success matrices, in your opinion, that brands should prioritize in the marketing funnel to actually capture the real drivers of ROI. Top 2 or 3 points that you'd like to share.
Actually, I would like to approach it from a different angle. I think that we should think about how AI can help us focus on this, how can it make us better at that? Because the way that I see it, and well, I can give an example. We had 2 AI hackathons inside the company. And the earlier one, most of the solutions were around how we create a chatbot that does something specific. Because, this was the way that AI was first approachable to us. But on the second hackathon, the solutions were much more interesting. I think that there is the buzzword of agents everywhere now, but I think that essentially what it means is to put AI in the driver's seat, because we touched a lot of, we talked about experiments and journeys and all that, and I think that AI is an amazing driver for all this kind of A/B tests and experiments. It can do it in a scale that automatically, in a scale that for us as humans, it's going to be really slow and hard. And I believe that by harnessing that, we'll be able to focus much more on the right things that we want to measure that makes the most sense to us.
All right. As we look to wrap up, let's look at the crystal ball, Siddhartha. Next wave of digital disruption. What's going to be some key changes that we should watch out for when we look at the changes in consumer behavior? What are the top headlines that you foresee?
So I see, India multiplying 10x. Okay, I believe 17 billion, short of 17 billion transactions we've done on UPI, we'll do 10x of that 3 years out. Okay, the opportunity is there, the consumer is willing to pay. As we create what's in it for them, that's when payment will come. Gaming, I believe as Indians, we've not even scratched the gaming surface as developers. Okay. We've seen the opportunity in Africa as a continent. The kind of stuff that we do in India, there's a lot of replications opportunities there. As a company, we do about 27-28% of our business outside of India. We see that effectively growing. And it's coming out for products, platforms. Today I have a Zulu service in South Africa. I have Swahili services in Kenya. The fact that we've got state-of-the-art platforms, we can make large engagements. In fact, I was speaking when you showed Vietnam in gaming. I just got a Vietnamese license in gaming. These are closed markets, but if you can go in over there, get yourself sorted. A lot of our platforms have great replicability across the world. Yeah. So our own markets are big, but globally we could be a very large player in overall space.
The world is your playground as you venture forth to conquer new markets. All right, Reshef, the last word from you, because when we see traditional tracking methods disappear and we are in a privacy first, first party data world, how can businesses future-proof measurement strategies to truly capitalize on this opportunity? As Siddhartha said, Indian brands are not just looking at India, they're looking at capturing market shares across the world. What would you say to them to future-proof their measurement strategy? A quick point of view.
First of all, we touched it, but not deeply enough. I think that omnichannel is really important and is going to be like stronger and stronger in the future of the industry, because you engage users on different kind of media, TV, web, everything, and you want to put it all together. This is still a challenge, and we are actively working on solving it and provide better solutions over there. As we said before, with everything that happens in the privacy, and it started with perhaps with the iOS, and it's going to continue with Google. First-party data is going to be more important, and the way that we work with Google and Apple, with the platforms, in order to understand and define how attribution works with all that's happening in privacy. It's going to be interesting, definitely.
Well, we truly are heading into interesting times, but I'm always excited to see what this first-party data world is going to bring to the table, because brands really need to raise their game into how they make content and context interesting from a viewership, from a subscribership perspective, to make sure that it truly is an organic experience. And we are hoping the 10x growth comes in, new headlines are made, new markets are captured, and we see Indian brands establish themselves across the world. Of course, in that content, measurement matrices, as I mentioned at the start, if you cannot measure it, you can't control it, you can't understand it, and you can't improve. So make your measurement strategies robust so that you can truly understand what you're doing right and wrong, correct the wrongs, improve the right. That's the message coming out from this fireside chat. And if there's a measurement to gauge how this conversation went, it is through the audience and the claps that we will hopefully receive from them. So let's see what's your response to this fireside chat. A loud round of applause for both of our guests. Thank you so much.